This is a place we have to be extremely careful. I'm just looking at the various puzzle pieces and trying to imagine what they could mean. We know that SARS-CoV-2 was the product of dual use research, which
Yes.
means bioweapons. The spike protein in the so called vaccines was taken from SARS-CoV-2. So it is also the product of bioweapons research. Now, again, I will say it again because I'm concerned that people will take it as a conclusion rather than a hypothesis. This is only a hypothesis, and when I say it's a hypothesis, it doesn't mean that I believe it's true. It means that I believe it's plausible. The vaccines that people got, you may remember, I think we talked about it the last time I was here. People who get more than 3 of these shots have an interesting effect that none of us saw coming, which is the triggering of something called IgG4. Ig means immunoglobulin. It's a synonym for antibody. IgG is a class of immunoglobulin, and IgG4 is a very interesting subclass. IgG4's purpose, its biological purpose, is to turn down an immune response. So if your body is reacting to something it shouldn't react to, the nature has granted us a mechanism for turning down that reaction so that you don't die from an allergy effectively. This is what allergens do, is they try to trigger that attenuation signal in order to get the body to stop reacting to something that it shouldn't be reacting to. The fact that these shots seem to trigger the production of IgG4 is fascinating. It could just be an unexpected consequence that nobody saw coming. But if you think about what it is that the folks who try to produce biological weapons want, they want a weapon that separates populations. In other words, a weapon is no good if it's not contagious. Then you have to drop it on enough people to matter. That's difficult. If it is contagious, then your own population risks getting it. So the problem is there's not a good design mechanism to deal with that. But if the mRNA vaccines produced an attenuation signal in people who got more than 3 of these shots, then conceivably that attenuation signal could cause that population of people to be induced not to react to a pathogen. If you just added the spike protein to it, presumably it would trigger that signal. So here's why I'm mentioning all of this arcane biology. The Chinese did not vaccinate their population with mRNA technology or anything based on spike protein. So those two populations are now different in this regard, which, again, might mean nothing. But what we learned so painfully in the battle against the mainstream narrative over these so-called vaccines is that the reason that I say so-called vaccines, and I try to say it every time, is because what these things turned out to be is gene therapy. But that doesn't even quite cover the problem with them. They're gene therapy in the sense that they introduce a genetic message into your cells and they get your cells to translate it. But there's also a part of our bodies that absorbs messages in a whole different way. It's our immune system. Our immune system literally evolves on the scale of hours to days when you get an illness. That's how we fend off illnesses that evolve so rapidly. And so the message that was injected into so many people was like a firmware update. It was a firmware update that caused the immune systems of those people to take up a new way of viewing the world. And that new way of viewing the world seems to have produced this attenuation signal in response to the antigen, the spike protein antigen. So am I seeing a mirage? Let's hope so.
So just to try to flesh out or put in non-specialist terms what you may be suggesting, it's plausible that this was all an effort to make one population effectively immune from some new bioweapon and another population susceptible to it? Is that what you're saying?
That is what I'm saying. And again, all it is possible.
Right.
I have no evidence that this did happen except for the odd fact of this IgG4.
Well, why didn't the Chinese use mRNA vaccines?
I don't know. It is, let's put it this way, nobody should have.
Of course.
It was a technology that was just simply not fit for human consumption. But